Okay, so you are funded, or you're close to being funded, or even if you think you're going to be funded in the near future, what techniques can you use to make sure that you keep that hard-earned account? Well, in this video, I'm going to be covering exactly that. I'll be running through 4 key techniques that I've used myself to keep my funded accounts, and also that I'm teaching my students to make sure that their longevity isn't affected and that they don't fall into those common traps that can end up a cropper. If you are finding any of this video at any point interesting, enjoyable, mildly entertaining, but especially if you aren't, then make sure you hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you want to understand more tips to do with consistent, sustainable, profitable trading. But enough of that, let's get to technique number 1. Now, number 1 and one of the biggest pitfalls is quite well documented. The majority of people that receive funded accounts actually don't get to the point of their first payout. And for those that swing for the fences and get an absolute humdinger payout in the 6 figures plus, tend to lose their funded account within those first 3 months. So what actually is the issue here? Well, put pretty simply, it's the rushing effect of now believing that you should be and can be making an absolute packet on every single month. And for those of you who aren't familiar with English slang, an absolute packet means a lot of money. You've seen people with 5, 6, 7 figure payouts and you want to be next. I mean, why wait? It's your time. Well, this is what tends to cause the issues. Newly funded folk get really amped up and try and get as much money in the shortest possible period. I've seen people, as they get that funded account, be up multiple 5 figures at one point in that payout cycle and then end up either giving most of it back, all of it back, and in some cases even lose the funded account from being 10, 20, 30, 40, $50,000 in profit. Remember, when you aren't funded, you're still in a net loss from day one because you haven't even got your money back from the challenge that you would have purchased, let alone getting a payout on top of that. So if there's one thing that you can take from this, and I appreciate that it isn't sexy and most people will be like, no, you should carry on trading, blah, blah, blah. But I'm talking about longevity and techniques to get that longevity within your funded account journey. So what I'm saying is, and the reality is that when you get profits on your funded account, the likelihood is you'll be in a series of trades or it will never be bang on 1, 2, 3, 4% in profit. But my rule of thumb is if you land between 1 to 5% in profit on that funded account, then stop. Stop trading the funded account. No matter how tempted you are, no matter how exceptionally good you think you are, just stop. The first month is the best month to set in some precedents and reality in terms of this whole situation. Just secure your refund and your small or maybe big payout in whatever the situation is and any accelerators that you're entitled to, and then make sure you've received it. Then, and the biggest benefit to this is that your psychology at the start of the following month is then at complete equilibrium. You've got your money back, you've got a bit of extra cash from it, so you're feeling a lot calmer with not a lot to prove at this point. At least as a worst case scenario, even if in month 2 you lost the account, you still got the account for free and you actually got paid to take the challenge. So worst case scenario, you're going to be at net 0 rather than losing the whole thing and clutching defeat from the jaws of victory. And remember this, losing your funded account is not worth anything in that first month because it will set you back months to get back into the position that you were, to have passed all the necessary bits and pieces. I know there are prop firms that you can do it in a quicker time frame, but the reality is the psychological baggage that you're taking with you is going to be even harder for you to achieve it the second time round, not to mention the fact that you would have lost the fee that you paid in the first place. So simply put, tip number 1, stop trading once you hit any profit to make sure you secure that mini payout and also the refund too. This is of course where a personal account can come in handy, because if you've got a personal account, no matter how big, you can keep trading with the markets and keep making your profits on that personal balance. But just for the funded, because you do have to treat it a bit differently from a psychological standpoint, is make sure that you are practiced and well versed at sitting on those hands. Remember, this video isn't about looking like a top G and busting a nut on the first month. It's about how can you give yourself the highest chance of the longevity and sustainability once having that funded account. Okay, so number 2 is set your get out. Tip number 1 gets you over hurdle number 1, but then what? I mean, month 2, you've got your refund, you've got your mini payout, the world's your limit. Let's break the payout record, yo. No, just stop, will you? Sit down, have a sandwich, take a breath. I don't care, just get a grip. As an individual, we always have a certain amount of money that can make a profound difference to our own circumstances and change our financial futures. So just quantify that before you start making unnecessary risks and taking unnecessary losses in pursuit of trying to break records, instead of actually relating what that could be to your own life. And by doing so, set your get out. Now, what I'm actually saying here is that you need to have a number that once you're in a certain amount of profit, that there is a figure that you will go down to that you will never lose more than. It's almost like putting a stopgap in place to make sure that zero gets lifted to a certain figure so that you know, worst case scenario, you're going to walk away with an amount that at least you'll be happy with and that can create an impact on your life or towards your goals. Now, I'm going to give you an example, but one thing I would say is that if you're up 4% or more, then this is an absolute no-brainer. But first off, based on what could give you some impact in your life, whether it's on a day-to-day basis or a contribution towards your goals, something real, not head in the sky looking at trying to make 5 million in 3 months, but actually what would have that impact. Once you've got that at the forefront of your mind, then set an amount that you would be able to walk away from on your funded account that would actually bring you some value or a decent amount of value that you would be happy with. This could be 1%, 2%, 3% or more. 5%, 6%, 7% or floor. Then next, once your profit exceeds that figure, and it'll always tend to exceed it because we take the setups for the setup, not to get to a predetermined figure. I mean, you can do that, but it would somewhat ruin my example here. So let's say you close a trade at 4.5% in profit. Now, you should not leave that month with zero profit or worse. This is when you set your get out, or you would already have your get out set in your head for this moment. Let's say the figure that you would be happy with is 2% on that funded account. So this means that your new zero becomes 2% profit. So on a $100,000 account, for example, your new zero would be working to 102,000. Meaning in this example, you're already up 4.5% in profit. This gives you 2.5% to play with for the rest of the month to ensure that you don't walk away with any less than that 2%. And you can treat this as you wish, 1% risk, for example, and then 1.5% risk, or even 5.5% risk trades. I mean, whatever, the choice is yours, but the point is that you will always leave as a minimum with the same amount of money. When you're on your way up, when you're newly funded, or even if you're in that early-ish phase where you're a bit sort of up and down in terms of results, just do it. It will help you psychologically, trust me, just do it. Now, I do know that there are going to be alphas coming out of wherever they come out from saying, you should just keep trading your edge. I do this, I do that. And that's truly wonderful. It really is. And all power to them. But I'm talking to the majority of people here with humble ambition and want to not get lost in the wild, wild west of psychology and blowing funded accounts. Because believe me, one of the fast tracks to there is believing in your own hype and trying to be a one-hit wonder. So tip number 3, and this is a really cheesy one, but I'm going to explain why it's important. You have to see funding as the journey, not the end destination. Too many people get fixated on being funded or not, passing this or not, or getting a big payout and wanting to be publicized everywhere, even if they lost the account the month after. But the problem is that if you are in this for the right reasons, if you are looking to achieve financial goals, you will need to repeat whatever you're doing month on month, year on year. So trying to get a home run in 1 month just will not help you here. The problem that most people don't seem to grasp is that whilst it's wonderful and fantastic and a brilliant achievement that you pass a challenge, it really only gets you to floor number 1. And from floor number 1, you've got a hell of a long life ahead of you. So how did I avoid this mentality? What do I tell people to do to avoid this mentality? Well, it's pretty straightforward, and I've gone on about this a lot on this channel and on my Instagram as well. Go follow me on Instagram at Metramillion. But this is the power of having a personal account running alongside, because it means that with funding, you do have to be sometimes strategic in terms of when you start and stop trading to make sure that you don't get into a run of silly results or giving back too much money unnecessarily. With that personal account running alongside, when you get to your get out on any 1 month on your funded account, tip number 2, it means that you can continuously keep trading within your own account and within your own bandwidth. By doing this, it creates that recurring, repetitive, continuous cycle that you do have a need for a career as a trader. Rather than having this challenge mentality with jumping over a bunch of hoops to get the trophy at the end, because that isn't what happens. Create habits that are sustainable on a monthly basis. Make your chart time sustainable so that you could repeat the same day 365 times on the trot without getting burnt out. Don't go to wild peaks and troughs of activity or start changing your behaviors just because you are funded. Remember, what got you to the point of being consistently profitable and funded is the same thing that is going to keep you funded for the long term. Not changing your approach and starting to become a bit maverick and start swinging for the fences because you want to get a social tag for it. So tip number 4, and this is a general tip, but especially important for funded traders. You're in a world where you see tons of FTMO interviews, Myforex funds interviews, successful traders showing how they're passing challenges in 30 seconds every single day of the week and twice on a Sunday. But for goodness sake, no matter what you do, no matter how cliche, just stop comparing your results to others. Especially with funded trading and funding payouts to all those funded bods that are out there in the internet. Now, of course, there are some cool cats, there are some mangy cats, but you just be your own cat. Maybe you're a bit gnarly, maybe you're a bit antisocial. That's all right, you're a cat. You are your own cat. Remember, this whole mentality works both ways as well, because you could get a 5, 6, 7 figure payout from FTMO. You could do your interview with Myforex funds. But guess what? After that 5 minutes, potentially 30, of fame, nobody is gonna give a poo. They're on to the next successful trader to live their ambition through. It's just the way the industry and the world tends to work. And so if on your first month, you just get your refund and $1,000 in profit, then guess what? Nobody cares about that either. The only person it affects, truly affects, and will actually have any impact on is you, the gnarly cat. Just focus on what it's doing for you. There is no trading competition, there is no winner. Nobody cares. Your funded trader journey is your funded trader journey, and trust me, you are going to be happier plodding along and making consistent profits on those funding journeys by keeping your funded account rather than going up and down, swinging for the fences, trying to get some social clout and then having to be back at square one. So just focus on you and what those payouts, no matter what the amount, could do for you. Have you enjoyed this one? Taken anything from it? Well, if you have, and especially if you haven't, then make sure you hit that likes up button. It goes a huge way to supporting me and the channel. Hit subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss when I'm posting my next series of top tips to be a top trader. If you are already a very successful trader and you're wondering what we're going to do about my taxes, then click on this video here. I run through it in a lot of depth, both for if you're doing it as a sole trader or if you create your own limited account. But anyway, I think that's enough for now. I'm going to leave you to it. Have a wonderful rest of your day and I'll catch you on the next video. Take it easy.